episode of Conversations with Daron Jenkins. I'm your host, Daron Jenkins, and joining me, you know what? I should have said sorry because we've been missing each other a few times, and it's all my fault because I've been busy. Lynn Ollie, who is a costume designer, whose current project I just saw the trailer for, The Man in My Basement, starring William Dafoe. We're gonna have to conversate about that one. Okay. Thank you for being on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
You know, before we got on, we were talking about the Y2K, all the problems and whatever. But you mentioned you're from DC. I lived in DC for a little bit. I went to school in Maryland, in Silver Spring, and my mom lived in the northwest sector of Washington, D.C., like not far from Walter Reed.
Mm-hmm. Wow, I grew up also in Maryland, in Suitland, and then in DC, in Northeast. And when you said you went to school there, I was like, did you go to Howard? Because just about anybody that I meet, they're like, I went to Howard, and then they get this faraway look in their eye, and they start telling me about the parties, go music, but it's really with this like wistful expression.
I was supposed to go to Howard. I was actually, my mom wanted me to go there, and my father, my mother and father were separated at the time, and he was in Jersey. He's like, if I'm paying for school, he ain't going to Howard. And I'm like, come on, man.
That was I understand. Hey, it's like this is an investment. What am I getting out of it?
Yeah.
I messed up my whole family. I went to art school, so
Me
my
too.
mom took a lot of hits about that.
Yeah, trust me. My father did not want me to do anything but business. He's like, if you want to do art, you got to do something business related. So I ended up splitting the hair and taking advertising design. So, which was all art. He just didn't know it.
But I get it. I mean, when I decided to go to an art school, my mom was like, "Can you just please not do like painting or like photography, or so, can you please do something where you could maybe get a job?" And so I did apparel design. I studied fashion, and I was like,
okay,
you can get a job with this.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course you can. I mean, retail. There's lots of big brands. I mean, especially like around the time we were in school. I mean, fashion was kind of hot.
Yes, and we're nothing if not reasonable.
Nothing if not reasonable. So that leads me into a question I was thinking about too, because I talk to so I do a lot of different networking events for film and television people, and I can count, since I've been doing this since 2006. I can count on one hand how many costume designers I've met in networking, and I'm just like, where I know they're there because I meet them outside of these networking events. Where are these people coming from? So my question was, how did you decide to get into costume design? And was it from the film lens? Was it from the fashion lens? Was it from some other lens I'm not looking at?
I always wanted to be a fashion designer. When I was probably, not always, I think there was a time where it was ballerina, fireman, veterinarian, of course, and then fashion designer. But once I kind of landed on art, I thought that was going to be the thing. So that's what I studied. And my first couple of jobs in New York were, I worked for a really small designer we were doing like oversized jeans and big barrel jackets, and it was like a little bit hip hop flavored. And then I worked for like a more Seventh Avenue person who was doing more like dresses and kind of nicey nice. And it took me a minute to get into like the more corporate side of it. And then once I did that, I thought, well, this is not that kind of, express yourself through clothing dream that I was having. This is like hey, this button costs 3 cents, but this button costs 2 cents. We're going to go with the 2 cent button because we're trying to make money, and crush my little designer heart. Um, and my best friend from high school was working at VH1 as a PA, I think. What was she? Like, kind of in logistics. And she said, "Oh, the stylist here needs an assistant. You should come meet her." And I
Oh,
did, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, this is much better." And I completely segued over to that. And then I still did work in fashion as like my kind of square job, I called it. I would like sketch and stuff like that. And that was how I made money when I was doing like New York independent, we don't have a lot of money, but it's a great project film.
wow. That's, I mean, I feel like for for like artists and fashion designers, musicians to some degree, we always have to figure out like the business piece of how do we make money. And it's always, I feel like it's always kind of like we kind of just fall into it. Like there's the plan we have doesn't really work, but what does work is like just networking and having good friends and connecting to people, and
Very
we
much.
just fall into those things.
Yep, very much so. And being, I mean, I think this is a thing that maybe you do more automatically when you're younger, and you maybe have to remember to do that is be present in those moments. Like when you are meeting people and you are out and about, like be present to the little like, "Oh, hey, you know what? I just met someone who just was talking about a thing that you were talking about." And I think when,
Mm.
at least when I was younger, I felt like I just would like swing from thing to thing, and I had such like a faith that everything would work out, and it, we're still here. So it kind of did. But then I think, you get older and you start overthinking things more. Perhaps this is just me.
Yeah,
And so it's almost like the goal becomes to like get back to what we knew when we were like, "I'm going to take over the world. I'm going to do this. Everything's
yeah,
going to sync up," because it,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
words have power.
yeah. I remember um, as a like in high school, I would come over with my friend to. I'm from Jersey originally, and we would come over to New York to the village and hang out in the park. I mean, this is the we're talking about the mid '80s, and the park was Square Park was just filled with people taking over the world at some point. I mean, everyone was going to take over the world or, take down the establishment or, you know, it, it was just a very dream based lifestyle that was happening. And everybody seemed, for some reason, everybody either worked for VH1 or MTV.
It was a very large machine, and bless them, they paid my bills for some time. If yes, it was at that time where they were just really starting to expand, and
Yeah.
with all that programming. Oh my gosh!
Yeah. I was on Club MTV. And man, that was, I don't even talk about, this is the first time I've ever mentioned that.
Thank you for trusting me. Thank you. Sorry. I was there when they started the Real World. I was telling someone about,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and they were just like, they looked at me like, "How long ago was that?" And I was like, "Mind your business. I'm just
You
trying
don't
to
you don't need those details.
celebrate."
Okay. I remember I tried out for Real World, the New York one. I actually ended up friends with like a couple of people who ended up on it. Heather, Eric Rees, a couple other people. And it was just like, I was like, I thought for sure I was going to get in. Yeah. But again, mentality of taking over the world was, so
Oh yeah, I have also those friends who like, I was definitely probably the more if I don't know if I can use the word sellout, because when you study apparel design, I think you're indicating that you intend to
yeah.
make money. However, I definitely was one of the more corporate minded people in my friend group. Like there were a lot of people who were going to change the world through like, you know vegetarianism or being punk rock, like that we're going to change the world, and it does move the needle forward a bit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, what were some of your early challenges you like early in your career, or like as you're trying to, because I mean, once you got started leaning towards this costume space, um like I'm always curious, like how hard is it to kind of keep moving forward, because it's not like maybe being a director in a lot of ways, where um directors are like for the most part are pretty in demand. Everyone needs a director. Costume design, again, is still, even in the film space, it's still art,
Hmm.
and they don't necessarily. It's almost like you're working within a corporate space, but you're not.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like you really have to have both sides of your brain turned on, because there's the aesthetic. You've like you kind of your aesthetic boss, right, which is going to be your director, and then your DP after that, and then but you also have your logistics and financial boss, the producing end of things, and both those bosses have to be happy. Like that's just it is what it is. Like people, I mean, I know it's art, but it's an applied art. It's
Right,
applied
right,
to
right.
commerce. So um, that's definitely something that you have to be mindful of. And then, of course, starting out and doing like a lot of independent things, there's just usually not a lot of money, and
Yeah,
that's the first stop is just figuring out my kind of way. It's like it's almost a game where you figure out what you want, and then the whole game becomes how close can I get to what I want? Like how many of these costumes can I get to look exactly the way? And I think that directors and producers and everyone's having that same experience, because it's like how can I get the talent that I want? Do I have enough money to pay the ones I want, or do I have enough time to find the ones that are right, and so on. So I know everyone's playing that game. It's just for the most part I have found that if you kind of come at it even with that attitude and more of a problem solving attitude, you usually find that everyone's kind of on the same page with that,
mm,
and they just want to find a solution that's going to be the most advantageous for everybody. If an actor doesn't feel good in their clothes, it can compromise their performance, which is going
right.
to compromise the picture overall. And so then, we're really all in the same boat all the time.
I remember the first time I've ever had to work with with wardrobe, um, was my first film, which was Malcolm X, and I remember, like, I remember going down, like, we were shooting in Times Square, and I remember going downstairs into the where all the clothes, like, they fit you for the clothes and everything. I remember seeing it was clothes like for miles. It seemed like it was so many, like, and I was just so marveled at um how efficient, like, it's like they knew exactly what you were going to look like and how you felt. And I remember putting those clothes on and feeling like suddenly I was in that era. Like I was like that. It never had like ever clicked on me how important it is for the design of what these individuals are wearing, um, impacts how they're going to approach what they're doing about to do on set.
Yeah. I think very much so. I mean, I've seen this was from a show that I was working as I think I was the assistant on it. And there was a guy and he was from New York, and he was like, "You know what? I am a Jewish actor from New York. I do not know why they have cast me to play a coyote bringing people across the border. I am not Mexican. I don't." He was like, "Hey, I'm
That's
happy to have
interesting.
the job, but like but we go through the fitting and we get him in everything except and it's like there's little crossroads where you're like, okay, what kind of belt? And it's like, I'll take the belt with the scorpion in it. Like, yeah, you will.
Wow.
So then we get down to the boots and we're like, hey, you've got a choice of boots. Which ones do you want? He's like, well, which ones do you think? And we were like, hey, whatever you're feeling, try the one you like. And he was like, I think I'm gonna try the cowboy boot. We're like, go for it. So he puts them on and he stands up And then all of a sudden he kind of like cocks his hip to the side and puts his hand in his pocket. And he's like, he literally became that guy. And we were like, that's why they cast you to be this guy. Like they saw it. You didn't see it because you don't see yourself like that. But like they casting saw that potential in you. And here we go. Um, and it was one of the few times that I saw it so clearly happen in real time. Like just became that guy.
You know, I was looking at some of the stuff you've worked on, and you've done a variety of different things. And I mean, you've gone from Mad Men to American Horror Story to Superman, Batman. I mean, you've done all these different. How how are you able to reset your? Because I feel like like if you're working on Mad Men, it's a very different attitude and vibe and energy and that you're trying to bring to the screen versus say American Horror Story. I mean, you don't want Don Draper wearing leather. Um, so how is it that you're able to kind of reset your your mental focus or mental vision um, between these different worlds?
Usually, when you start, you're either doing it or it's already been done. There's research,
Right,
and you've got, sometimes you'll have it in a book, but oftentimes we'll actually have boards all over the walls. And so, literally, you're surrounded with just images from that time, and it kind of helps you, it can start steeping you in it. Um, I personally, I always have a playlist that I make. So, like, even if it's, like a 20s, 30s thing. I'll make like a little, jazz guitar, like big band playlist, or like for every job. And it usually is a little bit from the era if it's a different era.
right.
Um, and so if I'm out pulling or shopping, I'll usually just be listening to music. And that really actually weirdly helps me. I'm a very music oriented person. So that really helps me kind of like get in the groove. Um,
Mm.
Definitely.
I do that as a writer as well. Like I'm when I write something, I have a playlist like play different playlists for different energies.
Words or no words?
Um, Kind of depends. Like if I'm trying to get into like a darker mood, I will play no words unless it's a specific song that I feel kind of conveys that more. Like so, I'm writing a spec script for Miami Vice, and so I've been listening to a lot of the old shows playlists, but also I've added in a bunch of new artists that I think kind of channel that energy.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Because
So
that was a very, I feel like when I think of that, I think of like Giorgio Moroder and maybe Yellow and maybe a little bit that Phil Collins
yeah,
kind of moody famous song.
I'm having challenges trying to like I'm like I'm now what I'm doing. I'm creating a playlist of only contemporary music artists that can that I feel like have their own kind of vibe, not necessarily the same as what from like I'm trying to update
Right,
what
you're doing a
it,
reinvention or an update, so you want the
right.
music to also. Mm.
Yeah. So like so there's a lot of Robert Glasper on there, um some shout outs to and rest in peace to D'Angelo, little
Hmm.
D'Angelo on there, little
Oh
Sade.
yes.
Um, like because I imagine it being like a darker. Like I'm going to update it and we'll make it a little bit more darker, and so I want to have like a nighttime vibe to it.
Mm. That sounds good.
Yeah. So, um, so what? Uh, so, are there any films where or TV shows that you kind of watched and said, "I love this look"? Whoever it is, I'm just like, I love what they're doing with this vibe.
Oh my gosh, yes. So, coming from fashion already, I was already Jean-Paul Gaultier was one of my favorite designers when I was in school, and he started doing costume design. So, I think Fifth Element is probably like his most famous one. Um,
Yes,
Incredible.
yes,
There was also
yes.
one, and I have to look. I think it's City. It's not City of Lost Children. I think.
City of Lost Children, sure.
I think he did that one, and I want to say one other with that director. Um, no notes. Incredible. Just beautiful. So exciting. I think The Cook, the Thief, His Wife and Her Lover was also an incredible one. And costume wise, there's a really brilliant moment where Helen Mirren walks from like the main part of a restaurant into the bathroom and her costume changes. Like brilliant. And that's the kind of stuff like you see that kind of thing early on in your career, you're going to be completely infected by the bug. And you're gonna, you know,
Yeah, yeah. That's yeah. I think for me, one of the movies I kind of thought was like when I even thought about costume design, besides like some of the obvious films that you'd say, was The Professional. Um,
yes.
I was like, I just like I love the way it's shot, but but I whoever did the costume design on that, just so good.
Yes. And interesting choices,
Yes.
like very characterful choices.
Yep.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
that makes such a difference. That stuff, I mean, that's, little icons, really.
Yeah. Yeah. So, uh, for like younger filmmakers, and I always wonder about this question for like when you're working with, because you've worked with some pretty heavy hitting directors. I mean, we're talking about some, next level people. Um, how how do you build that rapport between the director and yourself?
Is a tricky one. Um, I think by the time you're on the job, you already have that foundation. Because I just don't know. I mean, I'm sure that there's a planet in which the director kind of wouldn't care about the costume person and you could just kind of come on and they kind of wouldn't notice that they didn't vibe with you. But I do,
Yeah.
but for the most part, my experience has been either that connection is so important at the beginning, because this person is trusting you to kind of be one of four kind of horsemen of the apocalypse to make their project look the way they want it to look,
Right, right,
and
right.
so to know that you can communicate with one another and that you can vibe with one another, to me just would be essential. There may be some, and I feel like I have seen maybe some that are much more performance oriented and they're much more about their actors and that part of the process, or they're a little bit more, maybe they have a DP background, so they're a little bit more camera move oriented and composition oriented, and they're more interested in like lighting and filters and that stuff. And then whatever the people wear, it's just like make sure it makes sense, make sure it doesn't blow out my lens. um, or make sure that the actors are happy so they can get me the performance I want, because that's what I'm really focused on.
Right.
um, but I do feel like also everyone wears clothes. So it's the part that I think a lot of people feel most comfortable kind of getting into and having a conversation about and having an opinion about, plus, plus and minus.
Right.
I always say I do my hair every day. It doesn't make me a hairdresser. Like there's other stuff that we're bringing to the table, and give me a minute to show you what that is. You know what I mean? Like I'm
Right.
not just coming from a personal place. I'm coming from a slightly more objective professional place. And so I might be showing you something that you don't like, that you wouldn't want to wear. I might not want to wear it either,
Yeah.
but this character might really wear that.
Right.
So
Right.
that kind of stuff. That's and I feel like, we're all artists, and you come in and you're serious about what you do and you're passionate about it. They're serious about what they're doing. They're passionate about it. You can usually find common ground pretty quickly. I don't.
Is the DP involved in this as much? Because I imagine any costume designer who works with John Woo, right? Or well, we'll just use him. And the only reason why I say him is because you know how he'll do all these like slow motion pan shots where the coat flows round. So you've got to make sure that the coat has enough flow that makes sense in the camera, and then the DPs might say, okay, I want the coat to pop. It needs to be like this nice bright orange to kind of leave a trail. Da, da, da. I mean, is there any of that kind of going
Definitely,
on?
definitely. And sometimes it's be prepared because we're going to have to do a camera test because I'm going to make this look 6 shades darker than you think. And
Right.
so we want to make sure that everything still works and that it doesn't become like a room full of mud also. Um, so yeah, definitely DPs. And also as people are, I mean, film isn't as common nowadays, but um, different types of treatments you're going to put on your video and how
Right.
high def it is and all of that, you really do have to be a partner with that end of things and understand, what it's going to look like. Whites can vibrate, reds can vibrate, some blues can also. And are they going to do a blue screen or are they going to do a green screen? And sometimes that switches. So you're like, hey,
Yeah.
hey, you said we were doing a blue screen. I've got lots of green here because I can't have blue in this moment. So like now just the so simple as like, oh, you know what, we're just gonna switch to the green is like a huge ripple effect.
Yeah, that's a huge deal.
Yeah. So all that being in real partnership is super important. And it's interesting too. Like I like knowing the why of everything and like, what
Yeah,
everybody else is wrestling with, what their monsters are.
me too. I'm same way. I don't always want to just be like told to do something. I would love to understand the motivation behind it, because then it also helps you become a better at what you're doing as well.
Yeah.
So what do you think are some of the qualities of a great costume designer
Um
for
I
somebody trying to get started maybe in the career? Like what are some things that they should kind of focus on?
Okay, I have a story, and Anne
Oh,
Roth. So when I was in New York and I first decided after my VH1 job, I was like, oh, I will do costumes now. This is yeah, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. So I looked up who are the costume designers in New York. Anne Roth, like a titan. I was like, yes, I will go work for her. This is gonna be great. And so I start. I I don't know if I had her email address, but there we were using faxes at the time. So I faxed this woman so many times and was like, I want to get into costumes. Do you have any words of advice? Blah 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 blah. And really, really was very persistent. And she was very kind, and she did speak to me. And what she said was like, start a notebook. Um, Things you like, things you're interested in, designers that you like, work that you like, films that you like, um, garments that you think are beautiful. Like just start figuring out like who you are with clothing and costumes and like what you like um and that was really great. I mean, I think nowadays I would say that the now version is um just watch everything. Watch
yeah.
just watch TV, watch movies, look at shows, look at magazines. Like I feel like two things to have an interest in clothing and costumes is nice, and sometimes people come at that through a lens of being interested in history. There's
Mm.
a lot of different ways that people can find like a toehold in. Like I'm very interested in um not just the evolution of clothes, but I took a really great class in school that was about eras of history and how clothing reflected them.
Oh,
And so why things like the bustle came into being and those kinds of things.
mm,
Um, so history is interesting. You'll find that clothing is really exciting when you look at it through that lens. I feel like fashion is obviously a thing to kind of keep abreast of. My personal soapbox is if you're working with directors um, and people who have gone to film school or studied film on some level, even if it's like self-taught, you also need to have a decent film vocabulary. Like if you're talking to someone and you know that, like, your graduating class at USC, they kind of have a curriculum. They kind of have a syllabus. There's movies that everyone will have seen. Start with the Criterion Collection and just start watching movies. And then like maybe look at ones that are, listed as like great ones for fashion, or like if someone says, I want it to kind of have a Taxi Driver feel, you don't want to be sitting in the conversation like, oh yeah, I love taxis. You want to be able to say, I know what that means.
I
I know
love
what you're
taxis.
talking about. Like I could, dig in.
Yeah.
So work on your vocabulary for that. And I think that also helps kind of set the tone that like you are also a professional. You are also coming with a body of knowledge and a skill set that can be respected.
Yeah. That's the one thing I'll say. As a when I was in art school, so I was also a comic book artist at the same time. I was doing work for Marvel in DC while I was in school, kind of using some of the money to pay for whatever. But one of the things that, like, my brother, who was also a comic book artist, one of the things my brother and a bunch of like the older artists at the time would tell us is like, you have to have a source file. I was like, what is a source file? They're like, it's just things that you think are interesting, just maybe it's like something in a magazine, you tear it out, put it in your file, or if there was an image from a movie, you thought, tear it out, put it in your file, because at some point you're going to want to reference back to it in some like panel that you're creating for this, da, 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 da. And in doing that, I gained a lot of knowledge because I just was reading I was reading fashion magazines, I was reading tech magazines, I was watching different movies. My favorite magazine is a fashion magazine, Interview. I love Interview magazine. The style, sensibility, the splashiness, the composition.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so I think that, this is I don't know. I haven't talked to every young person today, but you're right. There's a certain amount of that's kind of missing today. I think for anybody who is starting to become, even if it's a filmmaker or an artist or writer, I feel like you should have some type of source file, some type of reference file that, and like you said, broaden your horizons with content, films. Don't just watch. I had someone say to me about a week ago, I was telling them about my favorite movie, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, 1956. They're like, 56?
Right. Like, oh, I can't watch anything that old. I can't watch anything black and white. I can't watch anything.
I'm like, what are you nuts or something? That's a great movie. Like, I have friends who refuse to watch anything in black and white. They just won't do it unless it's a new movie.
Subtitled things either. I'm like, wow, that's a good choice.
It's pain. Yeah, I'm like, that's you're missing out on so many good movies. You have no idea.
Yeah. And you're gonna have to wait for the English remake, which won't be as good. Just saying. Watch it, get used to the subtitles. That's so. Yes, I think I have my now version of it. I had for years files with tears for magazines that I was carting around, and periodically was like, I'm gonna digitize them. Like, we're all works in progress in this life. So now, Pinterest, but like even
Pinterest
art,
is the best.
Like art and photography, and I have in a lot of my presentations and like for interviews and stuff, there's art, there's photography, it's not just fashion images, and it's also sometimes real people images, which is hard to find.
Yeah, true. Looking ahead, what kind of stories or characters are calling to you right now? Like, is there a world or an era that you haven't had a chance to explore yet that you have on your creative wish list?
I was thinking about that because I had a feeling like I was going to get a question like that. I like literally every single thing. I think
Mm,
about. Like I personally, um, I like superhero-y stuff. Um, I was up for a movie that takes place on Mars. That was this space moment. And so there was a time where the first thing we started was thinking about the spacesuits.
right.
And that movie went down, and I was like, "Oh, not a space movie." That's just so like, oh, it was like one of those like I want to tick that box. That just seemed like such a cool thing. And when you're thinking about the costumes, you're thinking about what they're going to look like, but you're also thinking about, okay, well, like, do they need to breathe outside in this? Like, is there like a water collection system? Like all the things. But I like done recently. I worked on this recently, it's probably a year ago. Worked on a Western TV show, and that was really great to be able to really super dig into like 1800s. Um, gosh, I mean, there's just something good with everything. It really is.
What what's what like what do you think is was your most difficult ensemble to kind of put together? Like just from like like the sourcing the material, that kind of thing. Like what was one like, wow, okay, this is going to be a new one?
I
Because
don't
I
know.
feel making like a spacesuit must be hard.
Yeah, but that's what's interesting. I feel like every job you learn something. And
Mm,
that was one of those ones where it was like, wow, yeah, I'm gonna have an opportunity to learn a lot here. All
mm,
new techniques and work with the people who make spacesuits and then figure out how far you can push it. Because like the newer spacesuits, they're just getting slimmer and slimmer as time goes on.
yeah,
So it's not
yeah,
that
yeah.
old, moon landing stuff now. I mean, at some point it's gonna be
To
um
be like
like
a
bodies.
jumper,
Yeah,
and that's it.
yeah. Um, I think hard, but kind of a riddle. When I did American Horror Stories, the which is the anthology kind of spin-off of the big American Horror Story. Um, One of the things at the beginning we wanted to set the stage, and there was kind of like a mean girl crew, and it wasn't difficult. It was kind of fun because it's a little riddle. Like, okay, this one's, and I feel like it's almost like a boy band or like a girl group riddle that they also have. It's like a little bit of a canon where you're like, okay, let's say like one's the posh spice, one's the scary spice, one's the sporty spice or whatever, and you figure it out that way. Um, and sometimes you can do it with first pass is kind of like palette. You can say, okay, this person I'm going to tend to keep in these kinds of colors. This person I'm going to tend to keep in these kinds of colors. Like she's going to be a little bit more reds, and she's going to be a little bit more blues, and she's going to be a little bit more pastel. But sometimes not so much, and sometimes it's the pieces. Like this one's gonna show a little bit more skin all the time. This one's going to be a little tomboyish all the time. This one's gonna have a little bit of like a bougie Beverly Hills kind of thing on her all the time.
Right.
Um, but that's the fun of it. That's like the riddle of how you differentiate. I think that one of the best examples that I saw of that was on Mad Men. Janie Bryant had tons of men, but even amongst the women, you had a Betty, the perfect wife, and then you had Joan, you had the siren, and then you had Peggy, who started off being like an ingenue, but then became kind of like a Ms. Magazine kind of woman.
Right.
And then there were also other women peppered in, and she really did a brilliant job of that. You knew who's like if you walked into the room and you just saw the clothes, you would say, "Oh, that's a Joan, and that's a Peggy, and that's a Betty," no question.
Mm, okay. Uh, what? Let's talk a little bit about the man in my basement. I saw this trailer, I, and I'm just like, okay, here we go, everyone. And this is, I mean, look. So this story has such a psychological and emotional depth to it. How did you use costume design to echo what the characters are trying to carry?
Um, I felt, and I think Nadia also, I think this is maybe one of the earliest conversations that we had. We felt really strongly that because the story was going to get a little crazy and was going to kind of test the limits of your kind of suspension of disbelief, like, oh my god, is he really gonna, nah, I would never, oh my gosh. So we wanted the clothes to stay as kind of realistic and grounded, um, and naturalistic as possible. um, and of course, when at first you say, oh, it's set in the 90s, and it's immediately like, oh, ooh, we're going to have some fun with this. But then, at every kind of juncture, it was, okay, but does this feel a little broad? Does this kind of take us back out of the moment? Because now are we like, oh my gosh, I love that outfit. Oh my gosh, I remember those sneakers. And
Oh yeah,
is
yeah.
that taking us back out of the story? And that's perhaps we felt better for a different kind of project. This is not a fun romp through the 90s. This is, psychological thriller, and we want you to be locked in. Like, we want you to be locked in with Charles and be trapped with him and be nervous with him and be trying to figure things out. And so there were a lot of moments. There was a lot of like more fun pieces that we're all going, we love you. We love you, bright Gucci sweater, but this is not your moment. We will go with the more quiet sweater because, the guy's afraid for his life. So we're going to go here. Um, and it was nice to be kind of on the same page with that.
Huh. That's something I wouldn't even have thought about. Like, like having like this experience in the theater where people are like not paying attention to the actual movie. They're paying attention to the sneakers he's wearing. Oh, those are the kicks from. I wore those in high school. That's and that's smart. I think that's smart. That's that you age it, but don't let it stand out to itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah. For a project of that type, for it to be, the story's already really out there. So everything else feels so believable that it's easier. I feel it makes it easier for you to kind of go down the slippery slope of this very peculiar world, this very peculiar dynamic, because everything else around it feels so normal. Um, and then there's some, um, and you're right, it's really cerebral. I think more so than a lot of times the earlier trailers kind of let on. So it's also, once you
Right.
get in there, like, there's some cat and mouse stuff, but then there's some intellectual conversation, there's some debate. So, this is some serious doings.
And the it's pretty dark. I mean, like just the 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 DP had some very dark choices to like make, and so um I imagine there's a you had to kind of figure out like what should stand out within that darkness versus what shouldn't stand out, um and like the skin color of the person wearing it, like within this darker like palette of colors. um I you know I'm a nerd for this stuff, as you can tell. Only because, like I said, I think each piece of filmmaking is this each person on the set is very important to the overall success, and we don't think about. I think for the unless you're talking about Black Panther, which is obviously a great film, but it's such a big, bold thing that people, of course, notice the costuming versus like a subdued psychological thriller where people kind of sometimes will underestimate it, but it's nonetheless very important to the success and the theme of the film.
Oh yeah. I think, tone tone is so important, and everything that your eye takes in, before people say anything, you see what they look like. And there's a lot of communication happening, with the hair, with the makeup, with the costumes. um and then also on a larger scale, even, what kind of room they're in and what kind of car they got out of, or, for things like production design and props. A watch tells you a lot.
Yeah.
A car tells you a lot. What kind of gun they use tells you a lot.
Yeah.
And so context also matters. What type of tone do we want? And Ula, the DP for Man in My Basement, is incredible. And the camera test was intense. We were really figuring out like what our parameters were in terms of color. So like I knew it was going to be a very dark film, like just visually, there's a lot of blacks. And so I don't I don't know outside of I don't want to give it away. There's one scene where um we use black, but it's a daytime. But for the most part, I don't think I used any because I knew that there's already going to be plenty of black. So I think navy is maybe the deepest I went, and it was a real. I had my little in my mind. I had a little color chart. Like I know I can't go past here, and it's probably not going to be
Right.
smart to go past here.
Right. Right. Right.
There's a lot of space in between those.
What did this what did what did this project mean to you personally, as far as where you what you're doing and where you're at in your profession?
I am a huge Walter Mosley fan,
Mm.
especially since I've been in LA. I have already, just driving around LA, listening to all of his books. Read a few, but a lot of times I'm in my car so much, so I'm listening. And as I'm listening to these books that are mostly set in Los Angeles, I'm getting a sense of history of the place, and I really have enjoyed his works. To be able to work on something that you really admire the script as well is really gratifying. I love that.
Um, I have a question from the audience actually for you. I'll show it on screen here. It says from Gregory, and last name same. We both don't. We're not related, but whatever. When you start a project, I'll put it back up there. When you start a project, what is the ideal time frame for you to design the look and feel for the characters?
Mm. It very much depends on the size and scale of the project.
Right.
If you're doing something that is, like No Exit, you have three people sitting around a table talking for a while. And I think there's a kind of a formula actually that they use that for in terms of prep for costumes, a lot of times we'll get on like smaller to medium projects, the ones I'm most experienced with, kind of the prep and shoot is about the same amount of time. So if I
Mm.
know we're going to be shooting for 6 weeks, I'm going to look to have about 6 weeks of prep.
Mm.
I think that if you're talking about something that's really big or has lots of little components, like a Batman v Superman, where there's going to be like a huge chunk of second unit or something like that, that formula gets thrown off. But I think that that is the kind of formula that I've mostly seen, is however long you're going to shoot is however long you're going to prep. So
Mm.
likewise, if you've got a 2-day shoot, that formula sometimes will bite you in the hand parts, because 2 days kind of isn't enough to figure out what you want it to be and then also find it and make it happen. Because if something's shooting for 2 days, unless it's a commercial, I mean, even with a commercial, it's just you need the time to go actually like find the things and find the pieces, especially because with that tight a time frame, you won't be making the pieces. So yeah, it really depends. Like if it's contemporary, that shaves off a little time. If it's period, that adds a little time. If it's something where you're going to be making a lot of things, that adds a little time. If it's really low budget and it's like, hey, we're going to pull things out of people's closets and have them wear their own clothes as much as we can, and maybe just supplement a little bit, then that shaves off some time.
Yeah, I've been on productions that had to do that a couple times, which actually I have no problem with. I mean, like if if it's going to get the job done, whatever
Also,
to get the job done,
a lot of times people's clothes just they fit them. The clothes kind of know their body.
Right.
It's wild how you can literally have two pairs of jeans, or well, jeans is a bad example because jeans are always so particular, but like two khakis, but like the
Yeah.
khakis that the person wears all the time, it even looks more believable somehow. Even though the khakis are great, maybe you've even aged them, but sometimes
Yeah.
that that like little finish of reality on everything does make a difference.
That's why people, it's important for you to have a bunch of different people in your circle of friends so that way you can borrow things,
Yes.
because sometimes, you know, it's just great. Like I used to have a friend where we would exchange stuff all the time. Like he's like, can I borrow your jacket for this? Can I? And it would look totally different on each one of us. You know, I'm all for that. I got a few fun questions for you. What's a fun fact about you that most people don't know?
Fun fact about me that most people don't know. I think a lot of people do know it, but I seriously thought about being a veterinarian for a while. So I am a super big animal lover. Like a nice chunk of my photos from the time when I was in Wales were just of sheep and like wild ponies in fields, just standing there, which when you look at the photo later, it doesn't have the same magic necessarily that it had in the moment. I'm having this really like transcendent experience with the wild pony, and he's in a field and he's being very tame and he's looking at me, and I'm thinking, this is a spiritual moment. Take a photo, and then it just looks like a horse in the field. But
Like, why is she obsessed with a horse in the field? What's going on here?
but she's a costume person. Like, why aren't there photos of ball gowns and it's a sheep?
Okay, so here's an idea here. You need to do a movie where you do the costume design for all the animals.
Trust me, when I watched Wicked, I was like,
Yes.
huh, well played, Mr. Taswell. How cool. And then immediately I'm like, I wonder if they were all real animals, or how many times they had a real goat. And then was it all CGI? Oh, was it all CGI?
Yeah.
Yes.
See, there you go. Start talking about that. When you
Try
start
to
doing,
manifest that for a minute here.
yeah, yeah. Well, so on one of my other podcasts called The Track List, we do films and their soundtracks. And one of the films we just did was the documentary, the biopic, Better Man, about Robbie Williams. And I mean, he's a monkey for most of the movie, all of the movie. And so technically that's an animal with a costume design. It's actually like the costume design in there is actually pretty good. I was actually didn't really think about it until I started preparing for this podcast. I was like, oh, you know what? Actually, we should have talked about that on the show. We don't normally do that, but that's actually something we should start doing.
You know what? I saw that, and I knew who Robbie Williams was, but I wasn't a big fan. And I remember there was a kind of a confusion slash kerfuffle because the movie wasn't as popular here in the U.S. because he just wasn't
Right,
as big a person here in the U.S.
right.
And from the UK, and they were like, "What do you mean you're not like
I
he's
didn't know
huge."
either. So
Yeah.
so my co-host, his family is from London, so he knew a little bit more about him than I did. I was like, be honest, I'm not gonna, it's not the first time I'm not familiar with the subject, but I really wasn't familiar with the subject.
So then all we saw was like, "Why does that guy look like a monkey?"
Monkey.
Okay.
Yes, that's exactly what I said. I'm like,
I don't understand.
so I just saw a man looking like a monkey dancing around the screen, but it was better than I expected it to be. Just again, it's not like when I did the Amy Winehouse documentary. Obviously very familiar. So um, who are your biggest creative or career influences?
You know what? I've been really blessed. I've been able to work with not all of them, but some designers that were already really important to me. Um, Obviously, Ruth Carter, Anne Crabtree, who did I think most famously *Handmaid's Tale*. But
Mm.
she was the designer that I started working with when I was in New York, and she
Oh,
really
good.
grew me up in this business. She's incredible and a brilliant painter as well. I personally do love Gautier's costume design. Um, Kim Barrett was always a big one for me. It was a early in my little notebooks, like, wow, designers that I think are amazing. Uh,
Mm.
I think that, yeah, and it also kind of depends. I'm spacing on her name right now. Um, the costume designer who did The Cell.
Oh,
Incredible
yeah.
work, and my recall's terrible, especially with names. She had
Um,
a real
was it
point of view. Real,
Eiko Ishioka?
yes, incredible. I just no words.
Yeah, no, I totally forgot about that. Yeah, that's up there. That's definitely up there.
But also, it's kind of project specific. Like, there's a few designers that I've always keep track of, but it's also just it depends. There's some movies where you watch and you just think, wow, they really nailed something. Off the top of my head, I don't remember who designed the costumes for Gattaca, but I remember
Oh
watching
my,
that movie and saying, "Oh, okay, I'm having a real costume moment here." Like, this kind of 40s informed, but still felt very modern, and
Colleen
it
Atwood.
was special. Ah, well, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Like, there's just those moments where you know it's special the minute you're watching it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, Gattaca's I think is one of the prettiest films I've ever seen.
And
You
once again,
know,
all the things, the the photography, the DP really in concert, hair, makeup, perfect. It all came together so beautifully. Production design and the costume design. Um, yeah, it really.
yeah, and whoever the costume designer, I think for Dune,
That is Jackie West. I worked with her.
so good.
She's incredible. She has such a beautiful, like, her visual language is just always so beautiful. There's always such like, not romance in like a kissy kissy huggy huggy way, but there's this
Right, right.
romantic kind of elegance. Like, it's very just almost languid the way she does things. It's just beautiful. And that's her. And that just comes through her work. Like, everything has this like harmony and loveliness about it. Uh, yeah, she's incredible.
Another question came in from the audience here. Do you prefer to find pieces, or do you prefer to create them from scratch?
Control issues. I would I would rather make everything. I
So
mean,
you're not hanging out at the discount store.
you
You're
know,
making that.
you can find great things, and I love looking through costume houses and finding those magical pieces, and it's super fun. And it's super inspiring, and sometimes things can kind of like take you in a new direction. So there's definitely something to having to go find it.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes you have the thing you're looking for, and then you have the wild card that jumps out at you, and that can become like the right answer. So for those of us with control issues, I'm aware of that. Um, but yeah, I mean, ideally it would be stacks of fabric and trims, and we'd just be making it all, making the
Well,
sheet. Yeah.
that is that then you should get like a gold star, because to me, I don't think one is harder than the other, but certainly making it some scratch is kind of difficult.
And it helps because I have a fashion background, and we made it was pattern making. It was from really building things from from a sketch to how are you going to make this thing now that you drew? It looks great. Picture's beautiful. How are you going to make it? And they were really rigorous that way. And so I think that does give me like a comfort level with making things, and even doing alterations and stuff. I'm comfortable with that because I've learned enough about construction and how things work on the body and how to tweak it if you need to. Um, and I would say that if anyone who's interested in doing costumes, you don't have to be an expert at it, but should be conversant. You should just know enough to know about why a garment fits the way it does, mostly so that if something's off, you can kind of have an idea of why and how to fix it. Um, and then, of course, as time goes on, the more you know about all the things in your department, the better you are at being able to make sure it's all going well, you know.
I used to be when I was growing up in the 80s, me and my friend, we went to this all boys school, and we had a uniform, obviously, but for the most part we kind of do what we wanted with the uniform. So
Mm.
we learned how to we started learning what it meant to taper pants and to,
I was just gonna
you
say,
know,
did you peg your jeans?
yes. So we would take, we had a guy, this old school um seamstress that we would bring it down, and we'd already have it all chalked out. We're like, we want to cut here and bring it in here and da, 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 da. So I, I'm a guy who knows how to hint.
I appreciate that. It's that's funny though. I went to a girls' school. We did not have a uniform, and I think that most of us wore some version of pajamas for 4 years. we were,
Some version of pajamas. But then you were ahead of things,
I
right?
know, look at that, setting
Yeah,
trend.
because I saw somebody wearing a full out um, pajamas yesterday with some sneakers, and I'm just like, yeah, no, that's not the way to do it, but okay.
Oh, we were. They were. It was pajama bottoms and like the little school sweatshirt maybe.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, it was. I guess yeah, way ahead of our time.
Somebody was I was watching I was watching some stuff on TikTok, and there was I forget who the actress was. It might have been I can't remember who the actress was. She was talking about her love for Madonna and how it was girlfriend from Saturday Night Live. Said that she was like, when I was in high school, I would wear boxer shorts to school, and I'm like, oh, that's
Yes.
right. I forgot Madonna used to do that. It was like had this. I forgot how much Madonna influenced fashion back then.
She was, I mean, off the top of my head, fingerless gloves, pearls. Um, I used to wear them out with a cardigan backwards, a V-neck cardigan, like with the back out. Thought I was so sassy. Um, yes, yeah, little leather
Maya
jacket,
Rudolph, that's who it was.
shorts. Yeah. Yeah. No, Madonna. Yeah, props to her.
Yeah, props to her.
Can't take it
Um,
from her.
three more questions, and you're off the hot seat. What was the last TV show you binged?
Oh, I actually Generation V uh is what I just finished. I'm waiting for the final episode now. Um just like a little addict. Like, wait, what is it? What is this show again? What is it? Is it Friday? Um and so I started watching Dark Winds, which I
Oh, I want to see that. I want to see
it's
that.
it's great. It's so good. It's it's so good. And there's this like crime solving kind of thing, and this like, doing his best, um, tribal police guy. But they really are weaving in so much authenticity in terms of traditions and the DNA, and like kind of there's a little bit of like a magical thing kind of happening as well. Um, and it's in its period, but I kind of didn't notice right away. And it was one of those ones that I think I want to say it's set in the 70s, but it has a kind of like a timeless feeling.
Mm,
Beautiful. Yeah, really good show.
mm. Okay, I'll move it up in the playlist
Oh yeah.
lineup. Um, what was the last playlist you listened to?
Playlist. I have one that I've been listening to in the car, which is kind of like whatever's going on at the moment. So a little Thames, a little K-pop, a little, it's all over the place.
Everybody's listening to K-pop. I feel like everywhere I go, K-pop.
Yes, right in your ear, and the little like worm gets in your brain, and you're singing
Yeah,
along. And
yeah.
obviously, like a ton of Doechii, because in my mind, we're best friends. But when I'm working of late, I've been listening to like bossa nova.
Bossa Nova.
I'm
Interesting.
really enjoying some little Brazilian kind of jazzy. Yes.
Bossa Nova. Okay, that's what's up right there. Okay. Last question, one I asked all my guests. What was the best piece of advice you've ever received and from whom?
Best piece of advice I've ever received. God, I've been really blessed. I've had a lot of great elders in my life, and I'm an only child originally. I have a sister, so I say we both grew up as only children. So we're both only children, but we have become siblings more so as we've gotten older. But we both have that like I do my own thing kind of vibe. So anyway, I
Mm.
spent a lot of time with older people. Uh, let's see. My Aunt Kitty once told me I was working a lot when I first got to New York and just hustling, trying to just like pay bills. And she said, be careful. You're working a lot and you're making a lot of money, but you're going to end up giving all that money to the doctor.
She
Uh,
ain't wrong.
exactly. So I've had some really good. So that's so there you go. That's work-life balance advice. From Miss Kitty McLaughlin.
Yeah.
Um, Professionally, I've had so many good examples, and I don't know that too many people have just said it as advice. They've more like modeled it. Uh,
Mm.
I worked with a supervisor once, and we had an issue, and they wanted to get some police for a scene, and it was something like they needed 150 police, but the budget that they were giving us was going to end up being around like 75, 80 police, and I'm trying to figure out like what can we do, how can we, and the supervisor was so good. He was like, hey, this is what the uniforms cost per person. So here's the deal. You wrote it this way, and I think that's what you want, but this is the money that you've given us. So your choices are cut down the number or up the money. And then he didn't say anything else. And I remember watching that and going, oh my God, he's right. Because then there would have been me trying to figure out, well, maybe I can find a blue shirt from here and it can kind of look like the thing and it'll be $1 less. And then it starts to look like, a God knows what. And then they come to you later and say, well, this doesn't look very good. And you're going, no, but because I was trying to do it. And I
Right.
really learned that from him. Like some things cost what they cost, some things take the time that they take. And
Mm-hmm.
and let that be known because that's the reality of the situation.
Especially in film. That's
Yeah.
exactly what it is. It is, and that's all that it is.
Yeah. And if they say we really want, we really can only spend this much, then you say, okay, well then we can give you, 80 that look great. Maybe we can give you for half the price another 20 in the back that don't look so good, but we're all in agreement that means those good looking ones are going to be in the front of the frame and we're going to pack it tight and all the things you can move forward, but to just be realistic and I try to do that just to be realistic when you're making promises, when you're having conversations, when you're saying this is what it's going to be. I personally don't like surprises, so I don't like a whole lot of surprise at the end. I'm very upfront, like this is what we can reasonably expect, and if I can do more, I will. And I think that's one of the best examples that I saw.
Yeah. I I agree. I agree with that very much so. Um, Sometimes, like when you start trying to mess around and just you either make things too hard for yourself or end up making it look not good. And I'd rather have it to be smaller and great
Yeah,
than to be bigger and horrible.
right. Crap doesn't look better bigger. you
Yeah,
know.
and especially in a focus where looks are your thing.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? If it was just about numbers, that's one thing. But you're responsible for how it looks. And if it doesn't look good, that's really your thing that you're not able to do. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's like that's
interesting.
my charge, is to make sure that it looks the way it should.
Oh my God, this was such a fun podcast. I'm like this, you know, I was trying to think. I think you might be the only costume designer I've had on my. See what I mean? Where are you guys hiding?
I will we'll do, you should do more. We're great. We're
Yeah, I
super fun.
definitely would love to do more. Yeah,
Well, it's also that, like, if you've come up in this business, being on set and being a set costumer and all the things, the amount of kind of film and production knowledge that you just absorb, just being around all the time, it's immense. Even now, like if I'm on set, we all know when you get the take that's just right, you can hear it. Like you can
yeah,
literally see the whole crew. You're waiting. You do one take, you do two takes, you do the third take. That third one hits right, and you can see like the grips start to move the stands. Like they know, like we got it.
they know.
That was
That's
the
it.
one.
We're good.
And
Yeah,
that's just from being around. So yeah, everyone has a lot to offer with that. And next time, I'm deciding when there's going to be a next time. And next time we're going to talk
yeah,
more about comics and illustration, because that is so cool. That
yeah. Yeah. I haven't. Yeah, we can have that conversation anytime you like. I haven't picked up a pencil in some time. I have friends who have been trying to get me to go back, but I haven't. I say, yeah, yeah. You know, the only reason why I really haven't done it is because, as you can well attest, being an artist is expensive.
yes,
The
yes,
materials, especially now, are really expensive.
and I personally am finding that um, I can't think of the last time I sat down and applied the kind of focus that I apply to my work
Yes,
for
yes,
a fun thing, for a hobby. So like just to
yeah,
be able to sit down and just like start drawing and dig in, um, I've kind of transferred all of that to when I'm working. And so when I'm
right.
working, make boards and do the things, absolutely. But to just do it for fun, I was even thinking recently, like, when was the last time you sat down and sewed something? I have a whole like rack of projects. And I was looking at him and I was like, do you even have the attention span right now to sit down and focus on that? And so that's
Mm,
something that I'm going to be working on. But
that,
yeah,
yeah, that is true. That didn't even occur to me. Yeah, the focus that it takes to do something like that to your level of expectation.
yes.
Yeah, I don't like I've kind of shifted that to other places.
Hmm.
So I don't know. We'll see. I won't say no because I will never say never. But yeah, well, we'll see.
We'll put it on the list. We'll circle back to it.
Put it on a list. Circle back to it. We'll consult and review. And, you know, yeah,
Right, we'll touch base. We'll circle back. We'll do all those courses.
all the
We'll put
keywords that
it
you have
in
to throw
that.
out there. Yeah, we'll analyze and yeah. So, um, are you working on anything now you can share, or is the Hulu project really your focus right now?
It is right now. I'm not on anything. Definitely looking for something, and trying to uh, kind of get ready for like the holiday season and think about like
Yep,
award seasons and all that
yep,
kind of stuff. And maybe that is kind of a costume designer thing. I working on the networking and getting yourself out there and talking more about your work, and that most of the designers I know, it's something we have to kind of apply ourselves towards. It's something
yeah.
that you have to remind yourself to do. So yeah, that also could be why.
Yeah, I can understand that. It's you know, it's part of the life cycle of doing what you're doing. So, you know. Well, you're welcome to come back anytime you like.
All right, I look forward to it.
Um where can people find you on social media?
Let's see. My Instagram is at Ollie Flows. It's OLLIEFLOZ. And my website is lynnollie.com.
And we'll put
Very
that
straightforward.
in the podcast notes so people can find you.
Right on. Thank you.
You again, this was great. Thank you for joining the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This was super fun.
And everybody who's out there in the world, please be sure to follow me at the Daron Jenkins. Make sure to follow Lynn at Ollie FLOZ on Instagram. Until next time, I am Daron Jenkins. I'll see you when I see you. Peace.